Hi everyone, welcome to the second episode of the Startup Playbook Hustle, a new segment of the podcast where I interview some of the best up-and-coming startups and founders on their journey, lessons and challenges to date. My guest for this episode is Noga Edelstein, the co-founder and director of an on-demand cleaning, gardening and handyman platform, UrbanYou. Prior to starting UrbanYou, Noga spent several years as a legal professional in organizations such as Allen's, Foxtel and Yahoo. And since launching in 2014, the company has seen rapid growth in the business, completing over 18,000 bookings and with over $3 million worth of services being sold. In October this year, UrbanYou also announced its acquisition of HomeHello, opening the door to the Brisbane market. In this episode, we talk about jumping into startups from corporate life, the business of marketplaces, and using acquisition as a growth strategy. Without further ado, here is my interview with Noga Edelstein. Hi Noga, welcome to the Startup Playbook Hustle.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time to be on the show today. You've just come from an event.
I have, yes, thank you. Yeah, no, I was just at an event on the sharing economy and access over ownership issues. Some interesting discussion.
Fantastic. I'm sure we're going to dive in a little bit deeper into that later in the show, but for those people that may not be as familiar with you or your background, do you want to share your story and what got you here today?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my name is Noga Edelstein and I'm the co-founder of UrbanYou, and we're a platform to book trusted pre-screened household services like cleaners and gardeners in real time on demand. So, I've spent the last 15 years working in global media and technology companies like Foxtel and Yahoo and IBM, as well as top-tier legal firms in Sydney and London. And one thing I noticed in common with people working at these places is that they never had enough time to get stuff done around their house. So, they would take a day off work to let a tradesman in, and invariably the tradesman wouldn't show up. So I met my co-founder Elke when we were together on the senior executive team at Yahoo, and we knew there had to be a better way to solve this problem. We'd both been on teams responsible for building and launching global technology products, and we thought there had to be a better way. And this was all around the time that Uber was launching. And it was really easy to get your smartphone and press a button and have something delivered to your door. And we thought, why, if we can buy a book on Amazon, why can't we buy services in the same way? So that's what we set about to do. We tried to make it just as easy to get your house cleaned as it is to buy a book on Amazon.
Fantastic. And so obviously, what was that process like for you? One of the things that I'm really sort of interested to know, and I'm sure for a lot of founders as well or potential founders who are at that decision-making stage where they've, either they're studying and they're thinking about their career, mm-hmm. or they're in a corporate job and are unsatisfied or see a problem. What was that process like for you and Elke in deciding to take that step from leaving a safe job into starting UrbanYou?
Yeah, it's a scary decision, and you have to be prepared to not earn money for quite a few years. Leaving a cushy corporate salary is a hard thing to do. But for us, Yahoo was really an incubator of startups. It was a really supportive environment to explore any idea that you had. And so many people we worked with there have gone on to launch their own startups. So it actually just seemed like a natural progression for us to do that. I guess we were both at that point in our career where we were getting a bit stale and we were looking for a new challenge, and we were just the ultimate consumer for this business. We were just so passionate about it. We had this problem of being busy people needing to get stuff done around our house, and we knew so many other people like us would use this service. So we just took the plunge and did it.
Fantastic. And so what did the first, from deciding to take that plunge, what did the first few weeks, months sort of look like in getting UrbanYou off the ground?
Yeah, it's interesting. At the beginning, we were pretty slow off the mark, I would say. So we, did things like created a really long business plan, which we thought was the right way to go about starting a business. And then somebody introduced me to the Lean Startup. And I read that and was like, wow, I can just do a lean canvas and I can have my whole business plan on one page. And that actually just revolutionized everything for us. And we just, we built an MVP and we launched it within a month of reading that book. And that was crucial for us. So we just started testing the product. And I think one of the great things today is Facebook and social media makes it so easy to test a product. So, we just built a landing page which said, do you want something done around your house? If so, fill in this form, send it back to us and we'll get it done. And we put it on Facebook and shared it with our network, and literally within 30 minutes, somebody had come back and wanted something, and that was the best moment ever. To this day, we still remember that moment. And actually, that client is still with us today.
Wow.
Which is just so satisfying for us. But yeah, so it was really about just trying, and what we learned in doing it that way was what services our customers wanted to be delivered in this way. So at the beginning, we thought it was going to be everything from cleaning, gardening, but pet minding and home delivered meals and all sorts of different things. And but by testing it this way, what we saw really worked was home maintenance. So things that people needed to get done on a regular recurring basis, and other things that, those customers needed to get done on an occasional basis around their house. But things that they were, our business is all around a curated network of service providers. So UrbanYou, we have this network of cleaners and gardeners that we've screened, we've verified. They've got police checks, they've got insurance, they get rated after every service. Only those with the highest ratings remain on the network. We're really fussy with who we let in. Less than 10% of applicants get through. So what a consumer is doing is outsourcing that decision-making process to us. We take that element of decision off of their mind, but there's only certain things that people will let you do that with. Some services people still want to be more involved in that decision making process, but things like cleaning, gardening, carpet, steam cleaning lend themselves really well to being delivered in this way.
Sure. So obviously in a marketplace setting, you would, like, conventional wisdom would say that you want as many people on both sides of the market. And as you mentioned, you are super focused on the suppliers that you allow, and you only allow 10%. Did it always start off that way, or how did that sort of decision come about?
Yeah, so for us, quality was always the critical thing. So our target market is very much busy urban professionals that need to get stuff done in a reliable way. So we're eliminating that concern of is the cleaner actually going to turn up at my house? Are they going to say are they going to do what they say they're going to do? So for us, the quality was always key. And the other thing for us is the trust. So because we came at this from a consumer perspective, we understood what it's like to invite a stranger into your home and be comfortable with that. And so, we very deliberately said that we were going to only allow those providers in that met our strict criteria. And if they don't deliver, they're, exited from the network. So that definitely makes it harder for us to source those quality providers, but it means that our customers love us and they stick around with us. And we have a really high recurrence rate and a super low churn because we can deliver that level of service.
Sure. And even in terms of your offering, there seems to be a very specific focus in, you don't do everything. Mm-hmm. There are other sort of platforms that do sort of focus on that. Again, how did that sort of decision come about to focus on particular areas? Was that based on, was that straight from the start? Was there some customer feedback that was taken on that helped you refine that focus? Where did that sort of start? Yeah,
so, as I mentioned, we launched with a variety of products, and what we saw pretty quickly was that the cleaning and the gardening and the carpet cleaning were the sort of stickier sorts of products. And what we have decided to do, and has worked very well for us, is to take those service categories that we know we can deliver really well and go really deep into markets with those. So go very hyper local. So, we started in a couple of key areas within Sydney, and we went really deep into those markets. And then we expanded out gradually into other areas. We're now in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane. And once we have sort of taken that service offering nationwide, then we'll be able to look at additional service offerings to complement for that market. Yeah,
sure. So again, just kind of picking different parts of your business, but expanding out from like a hyper local focus, is there a particular point where you say, okay, it makes sense for us to now we've gone deep enough, it's now time for us to expand out into a different area? And how do you decide where to expand to?
Yeah, good question. So there's sort of a few different things that you need to take into account. So especially with the marketplace, it's, liquidity is key, and it's the saying is winner takes all in a marketplace. And if you look at the big successful marketplaces we've had in Australia, like Seek for jobs, or like car sales for cars, there's typically, one platform that does tend to build sufficient liquidity that everybody goes there. So it's a little bit of a balancing act between getting to each market fast enough, but also really building out a loyal customer base and sticky provider network in each market before you move on. So what we've done is we've gone into each sort of area, we've built up a really loyal following, and then the word of mouth sort of does the rest for us in each of those markets, and then it's time to move on and attack a new area.
Fantastic. And obviously UrbanYou's grown really, really quickly. And again, one of the things that I like sort of asking guests is really sort of understanding everyone wants high growth and fast growth, but it comes with its own set of challenges. What are some of the, I guess, less expected challenges of growing that quickly that you've faced, and how did you overcome that?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges with growing a marketplace is balancing the supply and demand, and particularly, as you've already mentioned, where our supply is so highly curated. So it's always a balance between, having enough work for the providers that they remain engaged enough on the platform and become very sticky, as opposed to having enough providers that our consumers can always access the service that they need. So, for example, last minute availability is a key thing for us. So even over the few years since we launched in 2014, we've seen the time frame in which consumers expect a service to be delivered to really shrink. So, and I think that's all down to that whole Uberization of the economy, right? And people just really getting used to being able to press a button on their phone and have anything. And so I would say at the beginning, the average lead time for between order and delivery was about 3 to 4 days, and now we can get a cleaner to your home within 4 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, and that is all around having enough liquidity in the marketplace for being able to deliver that service. So it's really a balancing act. And, there's mechanisms like, surge pricing, last minute availability fees and so on that you can use to help moderate that, but that is definitely a challenge that we always face.
Sure. Speaking of challenges, it's very, very difficult building a company. And often it's really easy to get stuck into the day-to-day operations and kind of look at the bigger picture of where it is that you're heading. I know from a previous conversation you've mentioned around some of the people and organisations that have helped you in build out UrbanYou. Just wanted to, ask you about what are some of those organisations and how have they helped, and how would you sort of recommend someone who's a first-time founder going about building a business in finding those supportive people and organisations?
Absolutely. For us, we've been so fortunate to have had access to the organisations such as Heads Over Heels and Springboard that specifically focus on female entrepreneurs. And it's interesting because I often get asked, what are the challenges of being a female entrepreneur and so on. And I always say, actually, it's in this market today, there's so many advantages because there's these organisations that are specifically built just to support women. And so Heads Over Heels is, we're portfolio CEOs there, and they host events where we have access to this incredible network of top tier corporates that we would never be able to get access to if, we didn't have them behind us. And so that's opened up partnership opportunities for us with the likes of Ernst & Young and NAB, where we now are a partner for their employee benefits program. So we provide cleaners to their employees as a benefit, which is a massive, it's fantastic for their staff and fantastic for us. And then Springboard, which is a female-focused accelerator program that we were accepted to earlier this year that we completed, that really focuses on solving the problem of access to capital for female entrepreneurs and the specific challenges around that. And we completed that program and within 2 weeks raised $1 million Series A round. So we were thrilled from the support we received from them, yeah.
Fantastic. And obviously one of the big announcements that you made recently was the acquisition of another company. For most startups, they're thinking about their own sort of exit strategy, but you went down the path of actually buying another company. Again, do you want to share a little bit about how that sort of process came about and what some of the learnings were from going through that process?
Yeah. Look, so in marketplaces, as I mentioned, it is a bit of a winner takes all, and we've looked around at how other marketplaces have expanded, and there's examples of, for example, Freelancer that did a massive roll-up strategy of other players internationally. Companies like Handy, which is a big on-demand home services company, has certainly expanded into new markets in this similar way. And when we took on our Series A, we set ourselves a really ambitious task of tripling growth within the year. And to do that, we needed to make some, really big and bold moves for growth. And with a marketplace, it's an expensive business to run. I mean, we've raised $2 million in funding to date and $1 million in the latest round. But, the marketing that you need to really accelerate growth costs a lot more than that. So we looked at how else we could get to that target. And the HomeHello team are a provider for cleaning services in Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane, and they approached us and it just seemed like a perfect strategic fit. They had a really loyal recurring user base that fit perfectly into our model. And we just see that as ultimately there will be consolidation in this market, and the successful player will be the player that can build the greatest liquidity, provide services in the shortest availability window for their providers, and this enables us to do that.
Sure. So just kind of diving into that a little bit deeper, did you know that you were on the lookout to purchase a company? So did you have options on the table, or were you very kind of set and the right sort of opportunities presented itself?
Look, we've always been open to opportunities. I guess my background is as a corporate lawyer, and certainly being at Yahoo, I was involved in the Spreets deal and other M&A that took place, and I have certainly always kept my eyes open for those opportunities, and I think it's wise to know all of your the players in your space. And so as it turned out, this opportunity came to us at the right time, and it just really made sense. It gave us an instant entry into the Brisbane market, and it really enabled us to double our user base overnight.
Sure. Well, yeah, I mean, obviously there's a huge amount of advantage from going down that path. For anyone who is in that position down the line, what are some of the things that they should look for in terms of a good deal for them to go down that path of, instead of raising their own funding and looking to expand organically, looking at purchasing another company?
Yeah, so it's interesting because, having come from a legal background, obviously the legal risks were foremost, and, we spent a bit of time looking at that. But actually the key is to look at the operational synergies. Does it make sense from a financial perspective? Can you really combine the two sets of customers and providers without adding any additional significant cost into the business? And if the answer to that is yes, then it absolutely can make sense. But the second bit is, how easily can you integrate that business into your own? Whose platform are you going to use? How are you going to communicate with the customers? How are you going to let the providers know? Getting that bit right is really critical, because the customers aren't tied to you. They're not on a contract. So if on day one they're unhappy, there's no reason for them to stick around. So you need to make that migration part as smooth as you possibly can. Yeah.
Fantastic. And so what's next for UrbanYou?
So, we're now in Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane, and we're certainly focused on expanding across Australia within the next 12 months. We're currently growing, double digits month on month, but we've set ourselves this ambitious task of growing, of tripling within the year, which we are well on the way to do. And then, from there, we're really focused on our partnership program at the moment. So that's been hugely successful for us. So with the corporates, as I mentioned, but also, we partner with property agents, the real estate sector. Another big opportunity we're seeing at the moment is the NDIS. So under the new government provisions where consumers can self-manage their own funds, they're looking to providers like UrbanYou that have a really highly curated network of providers that have the insurance and the police checks and so on. So that's a massive opportunity for us as well at the moment.
Fantastic. Noga, thanks for coming in and sharing your story. So one of the things that I want to do with the hustle version of the podcast is to really help join the dots between the startups and the overall startup ecosystem that we have. So the final question for you is, how can the people listening on the show help UrbanYou? What is something that you need help with, or a connection, or anything that the community can help you with?
Give us a try. So, everybody's really busy these days, and outsourcing is growing at a phenomenal rate. I think over the last decade, the numbers of households in Australia that have outsourced their chores has grown by over 35%. I think the latest census showed that each of us spends 14 hours per week doing unpaid domestic work. So I know that everybody out there is super busy and would love to check out a fantastic cleaning service or a gardening service. So go on to urbanyu.com.au and use the code STARTUP and you'll get a $30 discount on your first service.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for coming on and sharing your story, Noga.
Thank you so much, Rowie.
Thanks for listening to the second episode of the Startup Playbook Hustle. You can find the show notes of my interview with Noga, along with a curated list of tools and resources for startup founders at startupplaybook.co. As always, you can join the conversation through our Twitter account. The handle is @PlaybookStartup. Want to feature on a future episode? Shoot me an email at rohit@startupplaybook.co or fill out the form linked on the show notes for this episode. And to celebrate the launch of the new segment, I've launched 3 episodes of the Startup Playbook Hustle. Next up is Tashi Dorji, the co-founder of 2Space. See you at the next episode.